All right, cool. So my name's Anthony Ramirez. In 2006, I started a company called Mainland Media to help improve the image of the Bronx and to share our rich history and culture with the world. So we realized, that I'm born and raised in the Bronx, but every time I told someone where I was from, they had a really negative reaction. Oh, it must have been so tough. How many times were you mugged? Have you ever shot anyone? Silly things that don't make sense, right? And so we started really we called it mainland media because the Bronx is the only borough on the mainland, right? So everything else is an island. So climate change, and when the floods come, I might have waterfront property at some point. um, but mainland media gave way to From the Bronx. So FromTheBronx.com is our online retail shop. So we create and sell positive Bronx themed merchandise. And I'm wearing one of our shirts right now, actually. And when we did that, we were going around the Bronx to culturally significant locations, hosting pop-up shops and featuring, different artists and musicians and things like that, and selling our merchandise. And so 10 years ago now, we did one in the Arthur Avenue Retail Market, sorry, in the center of Bronx, Little Italy. And it was really successful. We did a month-long holiday pop-up, From the Bronx pop-up, and it was so successful. At the end, the folks that run the market asked us what would we do if we could stay there, and we proposed a beer hall. Beer halls are inherently communal spaces. They kind of force you to sit next to strangers and get to know people in your community. So the Bronx Beer Hall was born, and we've been in business 9 years now. So we officially opened in 2013. So the Bronx Beer Hall, the premier craft beer destination in the Bronx, New York. When we first launched, we really only sold New York State craft beer because there wasn't a ton of beer actually in the Bronx. To this day, we try to focus on craft and small breweries. And we also source all of our food from within the neighborhood. So, I'm Puerto Rican. You can't go into an Italian neighborhood and tell them how to make spaghetti or meatballs. So it's easier for us to, get the food from our neighbors and present it to our customers. The beer hall's more, it's not just about drinking, and I mean, it is about drinking, but it's not just about getting drunk. It's all about community and, creating a safe space for people who have never been to the Bronx before, and for Bronxites alike. We partnered with something called Sustainable Snacks, which is another small business in the Bronx. And we realized that as business owners, you get so caught up in the day to day doing, getting ready for your taxes, doing your paperwork, filing, making your products, that you forget to market yourself and to, let the world know what you're doing. So we started something called Taste of the Bronx, which really focuses on small businesses in the Bronx, the majority of which are Black and brown people, of color, that's really the majority of folks living in the Bronx as well. Taste of the Bronx is a monthly pop-up shop featuring 15 to like 20 different vendors. Well, before COVID, it was monthly. Now we're on a hiatus since COVID, and we're about to relaunch in August. And it's also a quarterly subscription box featuring 4 to 5 vendors. So, we really focus on Bronx small businesses, and a large percentage of which are people of color. They vary. Some folks are still very much home based, and they're, creating things out of their home office. Some folks are at commercial kitchens, and they're, creating out of commercial kitchens. Others are at a whole different level, and they have co-packers. And I'll give you an example. There's a father and son kitchen barbecue. They make a Puerto Rican barbecue, and he was a chef. He was a chef in like high-end restaurants, decided to come up with his own recipe, started by testing it out of his own kitchen, and has moved to a commercial kitchen and co-packer. Yeah, I went to private school in the Bronx. So I was in public school for a while. I went through a program called Prep for Prep, which takes I don't know if you've heard of it, but they're a nonprofit based in the city. They take students in public school who have been excelling and doing well, put them through a 14-month program, and then help them get scholarships to private school. And so I went through Prep for Prep when I was in I want to say fifth through sixth grade. And then I started private school at Horace Mann in the seventh grade. I graduated in 2000, so I guess in 1996 is when I started. I went in there and I said I was going to do computer science because I wanted to make video games when I was younger. And then at some point I was like, I don't want to sit in front of a computer for the rest of my life. And I switched to economics because I had the credits and all of that. And then, we all sit in front of a computer no matter what we do. So, I could have
Yeah.
gone that route if I wanted to. And I had a scholarship, and, they tell, if you don't graduate in 4 years, then you got to start paying the full freight. And that's, I couldn't handle that. So, I did work very, very briefly for the Federal Reserve. It wasn't my bag, I wasn't into putting a tie on. I wasn't into going down, to Wall Street and all of that. I ended up working at a nonprofit called Sobro in the South Bronx. So I came back to the Bronx. I lived on campus for college, because that's part of the whole experience, right? And then I came back to the Bronx after I graduated. I worked at a nonprofit teaching after school programs. So when I got there, it was a workforce program. They were basically giving kids incentive to sort of complete a resume and help them get jobs. And, and that was kind of the focus. We realized how incredibly boring that was. So when I left college, worked at a nonprofit, really, that's where I kind of got the idea to start Mainland Media. I was working with a friend of mine, John Martin. We went to high school together, both ended up at the same nonprofit after college. So when we first started, that was our retail. We were doing Mainland Media was the name of our Bronx apparel, and we started out with posters and postcards. We quickly realized that the name Mainland Media meant something to us, but didn't really resonate with the target audience, right? People from the Bronx don't always think about the fact that they're on the mainland of the United States. They kind of just say they're from the Bronx, right? And that's why we launched From the Bronx. So Mainland Media, we just rebranded as From the Bronx, and that's where we sell our merchandise. Mainland Media still exists. It's our parent company, and that is where we do all of our consulting. So if you go to mainlandmedia.net, you'll be able to see some of the projects that we've consulted on in the past. So COVID has been an interesting sort of business test, right? All of our businesses have survived COVID, knock on wood. So COVID has been a real test for our businesses, and our ability to adapt and change. And so in a good way, I think, it kind of tested our business acumen and made us kind of figure out new ways to run our companies. So with the beer hall, we used to be open till 4 a.m. We had a staff of like 15. When COVID hit, we couldn't do that anymore. We couldn't sustain that. And so we actually ended up reducing our operating hours, switching our model from a huge focus on draft and events to cans to go and like specialty limited edition drinks and merchandise. And that's been working pretty well for us. So we've reduced our staff. We're down to 4 now. We close at 8 p.m. instead of 4 a.m. And while we may not be grossing as much, we're netting more, and it seems to be working out. For this business model seems to be working out. And it just helps that we're in the middle of the retail market. We're in a very big tourist destination as well. And so the foot traffic never stopped. It was just the way we conducted business that changed. So that's good. I think in any business, really, I'm the owner, but I'm not the boss, right? The boss is the customer. The boss are my employees, because without them, I don't exist. And so it's great to say I own things, but really I kind of what we do and how we conduct business is dictated by our employees and by our customers. And so you're right. I mean, our regulars were super supportive throughout COVID, before COVID, throughout COVID, and still today. And that's that community, and that's that feeling that we were trying to invoke when we started the place. And it's carried us through. And I think it's kind of the through line in everything we do, right? Like from the Bronx, the merchandise, the clothes, all that stuff. We make stuff that people want to see. If they don't like it, they don't buy it, and we don't make it anymore. Right? So that's how it works. In addition to the work we do, at the beer hall and everything, we also, because we're so community focused, when I say we, me and my brother who own the place together, were members of the mayor's advisory board, the COVID advisory board, and we kind of volunteer our time to do things to help set policy and help make decisions around what is going to work for small businesses and restaurants and what isn't. We give advice. I'm not going to say that everything we do is everything we recommend is implemented, but we can only do what we can. you don't succeed without failing, and you don't get, you don't reach your goal without stumbling a little bit. And there's always a huge learning curve, especially when you're starting something new from scratch and you're doing it on your own. My first advice is seek out people that are doing something similar. Don't be afraid to ask for help or advice and look for mentors. I think they can be a big help. You are going to spend money, right? Whether you take credit loans, whether you get investments, whether you front your own money, like, you're going to spend money, and I don't like spending money. So every time I spend it, I'm nervous about, recouping it, and sort of, seeing my investment flourish. So you have to be prepared to do that. And you have to be prepared to, I'll use an example. When we first started the beer hall, my experience with bars was drinking at them, right? And so I knew the atmosphere I liked. I knew where, what my favorite seat at a bar was, et cetera, et cetera. But I didn't know, how to work a point of sale system. I didn't know maybe the best hiring practices in terms of employees and customer service. And so those are all things we kind of learned on the job. And, for the first year, we were there every day, right? And it wasn't every day, 7 days a week. And we were, we lived and we breathed it, and we really learned the business inside and out, so that when it came to the point of expanding or hiring people, we knew what we were looking for and we knew what we wanted. There are people that, and this is for any business, right? People that just want to collect a check, and there are people who are invested and really interested in making it something more than just a job, right? One, I think what we look for nowadays is really, when I think of customer service, I think of the way an employee or a person makes you feel, right? You never want to feel like, you always want to feel welcome. You always want to feel invited. You always want to feel like a warm presence. And I think that's a number one thing that we look for in our staff. And we also like really focus on people who are solution focused, not problem focused, right? So you don't want someone who says, "Oh my God, the glass broke. What did I do?" You want someone who says, "Hey, that glass is broken. Let's sweep it up. We have some plastic cups in the storage. Well, we can use that instead," right? That's something I learned. Speaking of mentors, that's something I learned from a mentor and boss of mine back during my nonprofit days. I would come in frazzled because of something, and he was always just like, "Don't come in here with your problems, come in here with solutions. And it doesn't have to be the right one, but tell me what you're thinking and we'll work from there." And I think that's something that, I've really carried over. And for customer service and for, the bar industry, it's a big deal, right? You want someone who's on their toes, who's warm, welcoming, and ready to solve problems. We do a lot of social media. So, we mostly because that's the most cost effective, right? So we have these huge audiences online, Facebook, Instagram, both for the beer hall and for From the Bronx. And so when we were launching, the From the Bronx has been around longer. So when we were launching the beer hall, we used From the Bronx to promote it. And then when we launched Taste of the Bronx, we used the Bronx Beer Hall and From the Bronx to promote Taste of the Bronx. So, we kind of, we know where our audience lies. We know what they're interested in. And so we do that through our social media channels. We do some limited like online paid ads. And we do as much earned media as we can. So, we send out press releases when we're launching something new. I'll give you an example. Just this past December, we launched Puerto Rockin Noggin Coquito Stout. So, we have, it's a 10% ABV stout. We partnered with Gun Hill Brewery and Fancy Coquito, which is a gold medal award-winning coquito maker, to create a coquito beer. And it's really good by partnering with folks too, like partnering with Fancy Coquito and Gun Hill. Then they were also promoting this product, and we were promoting each other's businesses and doing cross promotion. And that gets people's attention, that becomes newsworthy, and so that stuff has really helped out. Actually, another example, my father during COVID, he decided that he would get on his porch and play piano for the neighborhood, because people were trapped indoors doing Zooms and all of that. And once he started doing that, and it was pretty selfless. He wasn't doing it for any other reason other than to, entertain folks while they were trapped inside. He found himself featured on local News 12 and the New York Times and all of that. And it was the earned media that got him, a couple more gigs and a couple more places to play, so that kind of stuff works out really well. And,
Great.
it's true to our mission. We're very super community focused and Bronx focused. And so that really helps.